All right, Dev Q&A. I was going to record this in Japan, but I'm going to have roommates in Japan, so I didn't want to bother them, so I'm recording it at home. So that answers the first question. Where are you at? Still at home. Haven't left yet. ASL. I'm 40 years old. Dude. Phoenix, Arizona. All right. Why did you select Unity as an engine? It was free. Godot didn't exist when I started getting into game dev. There was Unreal Engine, but you had to pay for it back then. And also Unity uses C#, which is a more well-known language. So even if I got out of game dev, I would have a skill set that would be transferable. What inspired the set of villains you have for Noia's story? Lots of things, mostly video games that I grew up with, like Odin Sphere, EverQuest 2, Maple Story. So yeah, just other video games, and trying to like pick different pieces out of each game that I liked and put it into my own game. What other games did you potentially have for Noia? The working title was Bit MMO, but then it transitioned to Noia, and that's what it's been ever since. When will you get a voice actor for Halia? Because I'm fully offering my voice acting skills to voice him. I'm always looking for good voice talent, but it's just that the game isn't in a state that I can say, yes, these are the lines that are going to be in the game when it's done. So I don't want to like have someone record a bunch of lines and then me change my mind on a bunch of stuff later on and have to re-record them. And then maybe that person isn't available anymore. Luckily, the voice actress for the Queen of the Underworld is still available to me. She's great. And she's expressed her interest in continuing to work together. So that's why. Will there be larger group content other than dungeons? Yes, this past devlog was exactly about that. My philosophy towards this stems from playing both EverQuest 2 and Aeon. Both games had large open areas that you could quest and grind in solo, but they also had large open group content areas. So you'd be grouped up with your 4 or 5 other group members pulling monsters, and just across the way there was another group that was, pulling monsters as well. You would get a zone notification that a world boss had spawned, and both groups would just try and sprint through and pull as many monsters as possible to get to so that they would be the first ones to fight that contested boss. So that was a lot of fun. So I wanted to have that same thing in Noia. That's what the Old Forest map is. It's all group content. There's a little bit of story and lore in there, but for the most part you're going to need a group if you want to progress in there. Non-game related, is this trip business or vacation? Vacation. I've wanted to go to Japan for a long time now, and when I had the means to do so, COVID hit. So that got put on hold for a few years. What's my favorite food that I've tried in Japan? Haven't been yet. Favorite food now? Tacos. So what plans do you have on expanding your skill set for certain parts of Noia? I wanted to try and learn art, but then when I saw that it was easier to commission art that was way better than my skill set, it just made sense to do that. Rather than just being disappointed with my own work, it was just easier to get the fantastic stuff from the community or the commissioned artists that I have now. If you could go back in time, what feature system would you implement sooner than you did in terms of complexity, other than 3D? I haven't had to actually go back and redo much of anything yet. I would probably the mobile UI. I would have gotten that done a little bit sooner. There has been a few things that I've had to redo with the UI, system in terms of how the windows function and drag around. But yeah, that's probably it, the mobile UI. What games have I been playing recently? Maple Story. Being addicted to Maple Story. Don't do that. And Repo. Has your experience meeting other indie devs changed how you viewed the game making process? Not particularly, no. We all seem to have like the same struggles. We all hate UI. We all get the same mental blocks in the same places. So it's more along the lines of just commiserating with the same group of people. Are you going to have fun and implement secret Easter eggs and not mention them? Yes. But now I can't mention them. So no. What's the most helpful suggestion that you've implemented from the Noia Discord? Outlines on things that are interactable. So I don't necessarily want things that are interactable to just have giant, arrows pointing over them like NPCs with exclamation points. I want there to be some measure of exploration in the game, but when you do find one, there needed to be something to explicitly state, hey, you can interact with this thing. And so that the pulsing highlighted border over objects was actually something that was suggested from the Discord. What is a drink you have daily as part of your routine? Coffee and energy drinks, so caffeine. I try and limit it to just one a day, so either just morning coffee, but there's some times where you're just dead at the middle of the day and you can't focus on anything, so more caffeine. Have you made changes to your mindset to be a more productive game dev? I want to say yes, but not really. So I started this whole project when I was well into my 30s, and usually people are kind of set in their ways. My background is in IT and IT projects, so I kind of had a decent idea of what this was going to take and the kind of commitment that I was going to need to make for it to happen. So I knew that I was going to have to make it a habit to build this game, considering it's a massive undertaking, and that mountain of work was never really going to get any smaller. So, not really, no. Have you used Godot for any period of time? I have not. I am really happy that it exists, though. I view it kind of like a game maker studio or something like that, where it's always good to have other game making engines out there, especially that Godot is free. You can use it for whatever you want. I would recommend it to anybody. The community is growing. I'm super happy it exists. I just made my choice and have Unity, and that's what I'm using now. What's your favorite character that you've made for Noia so far? It's a toss-up between Penny Pocket, the Queen of the Underworld, and Dan, the Skull. I love all three of them. Do you have any plans for making new sprites for older assets? Yes, but not for a very long time. And it'll probably have to be after Noia becomes profitable, so then I can kind of like go back and put a new coat of paint on everything. The character model and everything has already been redone once, and it's in a place that I'm happy with now. Later on down the road, if I'm talking with the artist and they go, hey, we can retouch up these things and make it look better and put a new face on the game, we'll talk about it then. But for now, I'm pretty happy with the way it looks. If anything, I need more like post-processing effects to put that extra oomph into the look of the game, like with the fog or the bloom and stuff like that. Have you changed the way you handle expenses related to Noia's development? No, not really. I've got a set kind of budget in my head of how much that I've been spending, and to me this is still a hobby, and it's not the most expensive hobby still, so no, not really. Max concurrent player count. So that's interesting. It is hardware dependent. But according to the Mirror devs, those are the guys who make the network stack side for Noia, they have done concurrent player tests of upwards of 500 players, and that's all in one single area. The more players you have packed together in a small area, the more intense it is on the CPU and networking side. And they were able to fit 500 people in a single small area in a worst case scenario. So I want to say that the max concurrent player count for a single server would be 500. I already have Noia segregated, like the maps are all broken out and the UI and everything, so I can easily transition to a multi-server environment when and if that's ever necessary. So max player count right now is 500. We'll see how that goes in the future. Why no Patreon? Okay, Patreon is a give and take sort of relationship. You know, you guys give money and I'm supposed to provide something. So right now, Noia is still a hobby to me. If at any point, you know, I get sick of it, I can dump it. That's not the case right now, but I don't want to have that sort of expectation put on me that I have to deliver something because people have given me money for that express purpose, right? So there is a donation button on the itch.io page, and that actually supports the game as well as itch.io because they are hosting the website of things, and that's really the only thing that I want in there right now. Once the beta is up and running and on Steam, I will have a more concrete idea of what it takes to run a live service game, and if that's something that I want for myself in the future. And at that point, the cash shop will be available, and people will be able to buy cosmetics, which will support the game. So you will get something for your monetary purchases. Patreon to me, like people will offer like, oh, super secret Patreon levels and you are better than other people because you gave more money. I don't want that. I want an even playing field for everybody, even if it is just a PvE game. I don't want levels of people that can thump their chest and say I gave more money. Don't want that. Do you believe that you'll be able to create content at a speed that will keep players around once the game is released? Yes, and I say that with confidence because other people have done it before me. The game, the whole reason that I think that I can build an MMO in the first place is because other people have done so as a solo or very small team. Looking at Fantasy Online, not Phantasy Star, Fantasy Online was made by a single person and an artist friend. So my idea is the same kind of release schedule as like an EverQuest 2, where you would get something every 6 months. And I've been able to put out maps in faster amounts of time than that, focusing on a single map at a time and a single chunk of content at a time. Yeah, I think I can keep up with that time frame. Are you planning on adding end game gear, and if so, what kind? Yes, don't know. There obviously is going to be the best in slot gear for every different weapon type or class. But I did like how EverQuest 2 handled it, where there was just so much gear available that, yes, there was best in slot, but there was also like second, third, fourth, and fifth best in slot that were just a slight little bit better or a little bit worse than the first. So it made it so people weren't just frothing at the mouth for that one single thing. It was just like, oh, I got this thing. Great. I'm good. You know, I'm at end game. So, yeah. Will this ever be released on Steam? Yes, when it's in beta. Right now we're in alpha, and there are bugs galore. And I would get eaten alive if I put this game on Steam right now. It would be a giant buggy mess, and I would be crucified. So that's why it's not on Steam, because Steam has a higher level of expectation than, say, Itch.io. Itch.io is made for indie devs where you can throw a game on there that's a giant buggy mess and might not even launch, and nobody is surprised. Steam expects some level of completeness and polish in the products that are there. So that's why it's not on Steam yet. Pineapple and pizza. There's no such thing as bad pizza. Pizza's pizza. Where do you draw the line for the solo dev claims? So everybody is going to have their own definition of what a solo dev is. So my definition is I'm the only one working on the game. If I get hit by a bus tomorrow, the game stops and nothing else happens to it. So I am the solo dev on the game. Like, if Mao or Mr. Fox or Kind Fox is the voice actress, you know, if they disappear off the face of the planet, the game will move on. It would be very sad, but the game would move on, right? If I disappear off the face of the planet, the game is dead, right? So, solo dev. There is a single point of failure for this game. Now that you've been using Mirror for a while, what do you think of it compared to other solutions? I don't know. I've only used Mirror, so I haven't had the chance to try other solutions. When I first started off and looking for ways to create an MMO, there were two options. There was UMMO and there was Atavism. I actually was starting with Atavism because it worked. It was 3D and it worked out of the box. And then the dev got into a massive car accident, and he actually posted on the forums that he was really banged up and he wasn't sure that he would be able to continue work on the Atavism project. That's no longer the case. Glad for them. But I moved on and decided to do a Fantasy Online spiritual successor, which was going to be 2D, not 3D, and that's where we're at today. What are something common in MMOs that you would like to avoid in Noia? Time wasting for time wasting's sake, and loot boxes. So loot boxes are self-explanatory. But what I mean time wasting for time wasting's sake, there are certain, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but you'll probably put it in the comments if you think of one. There are certain parts of MMOs where they are literally only in the game to keep you in the game and for no other reason. They don't provide any enjoyment. They don't provide any sort of reward. They're just there to make sure that you log in and are in the game so that the company can pad their numbers. And those sort of things. Warframe and their timed crafting. There's literally no reason to have that. There are thousands of things to craft in that game, and putting an arbitrary crafting timer on those things is just asinine to me. Like, nobody's paying premium currency to speed up their crafting, and yet it's still there. It's just there to drag you back into the game artificially, and it sucks. So those sort of things. I need to highlight things as I'm going so I know where I'm at. Do you think the coding process for Noia has become more efficient than before? Yes, I have learned a stupid amount of stuff about game dev and little tips and tricks and stuff. So I can throw together like a new UI window in under an hour now, and before it would take me a whole day of messing around with parameters and stuff like that to get UI windows put together. So that's just an example, but yes. What part of the project do you get the most enjoyment from? Mapping, coding, designing, etc. Designing and coding are, to me, kind of go hand in hand. I am in my element, and whenever there is a day where I put in like 16 hours worth of work, it's probably because I was building a new system. Like, I will sit down, blink, and the system will be done, but it'll also be tomorrow. So I can stare at code all day long. I think the previous video mentioned that you were opposed to PvP, but are there any plans for PvP-esque mechanics? Yes, but I'll probably, when I say PvP, it'd be closer to like a leaderboard or maybe like little mini, like versus mini games, and I would probably keep them to be like event only sort of things, so that way there isn't that constant draw that I have to be number one all the time. It'll just be a fun little, oh, we did this and now it's gone, you know, sort of thing. And I might not even be a leaderboard on that sort of thing, because that just invites a level of toxicity that I don't need in my life or in my game. Have you ever incorporated stuff from games not MMOs, like RPGs and strategy games? Mainly story elements, but I guess the crafting system would be the biggest thing. There isn't a whole lot of MMOs out there that just don't have a level-based crafting system. Usually, I don't think I've ever played an MMO where there wasn't like crafting XP. So the fact that Noia is just, as long as you have the items and the recipe to craft something, you're allowed to craft it. That comes from more of a single-player RPG sort of standpoint, and I would like to keep it that way. I haven't thought of any reason why I want to introduce a crafting experience system, other than just the fact that, again, it would arbitrarily increase people's playtime, and I don't necessarily want that. There's already going to be grinding in the game. You don't need more things to grind on. Why do you make more maps instead of finally finishing the Deep Forest map? I know. Oh, man. The mountain never gets any smaller. So... there is so much to work on that I can literally just put a blindfold on and, you know, throw a dart anywhere and I will hit something that I need to work on. So, like I said in the last devlog, I kind of hit a giant writer's block with the Deep Forest map, and I didn't know what to do with it, so I just went and worked on something else. And it just kept bugging me and bugging me and bugging me, and I kind of just said, fine, I'll do something with the Deep Forest map. And I still don't know what that's going to be yet. I know I have like monsters and bosses and like the mechanics for how those are going to spawn and work. No lore or quests for it just yet. Do you get stressed because of game dev and YouTube? Yes, YouTube. And that stress is part of what drives the game. The fact that I put out these devlogs every 2 weeks, haven't missed one yet, is what drives production, or like, of the game. The fact that I have to be able to show that I did something in these last 2 weeks is what causes me to work on the game more. So I don't know if I necessarily manage that, but you know, there's been several dozen devlogs out, so it's not necessarily stressful anymore. It's just that I've gotten used to it, and I understand that I've got to do something every single day or I won't have something for the devlog. Who or what inspired you to get into game dev, and is Noia your first project? Technically not my first project. I did try and create a like hack and slash clone, like a No More Heroes or a Bayonetta sort of game. And I realized that making a 3D game is way more intense than making a 2D game. And then I also realized that it wasn't necessarily the game that I wanted to make, it was a story I wanted to tell. And then I realized that it wasn't a story that I wanted to tell, it was a feeling that I wanted to invoke. And then I just gave up on that. So, yes, not my first game, but what inspired me to get into and develop Noia specifically, ever since playing like Minecraft with a friend on public servers and playing Fantasy Online and all the other MMOs out there, me and a buddy had for like 10 plus years been trying to make an MMO, and we got really far in a Minecraft private server. I was developing mods and creating plugins and stuff like that, and then Microsoft bought Minecraft and all of that went out the window. So like the idea of building an MMO has been like a dream of mine, like for years, at least 10 years, probably farther than that. Again, highlight the question you're on. Could you, you say you're very good at breaking problems down into smaller pieces. Could you elaborate on your approach to implementing complex features? Do you ever build Legos? Big Lego thing? They come in bags, numbered bags, right? Take your big project, break it down into numbered bags in your head, and then focus on those one individually, and then put them all together, and you get big Lego thing. That's how. Would you want to work with other developers who support your project and to help you out in some way? I would be willing to work with fellow, employees would not be the right word, but I guess that's how it would have to be. I obviously have a large stake in the project, and unless I know that someone else has a large commitment to the project, I don't necessarily want to work with them, because they could just lose their fire for the project and disappear. There's a couple of artists, Mr. Fox, Mao, and Netherfang, who have shown a level of dedication, even though like they are being compensated for their work, but at the same time they keep coming back, right? They like what they see. So that's the closest thing that I have for partners in the game right now. But as far as like bringing other developers on board, I haven't seen anybody yet that demonstrates that level of willingness and intensity to work on the project with me. It's not saying that it won't happen. And that's not saying that when the game finally launches and if it's profitable, I would be able to hire someone, but that's just not where we're at yet. How do you plan on handling exploits, rollbacks, and targeted rollbacks? Rollbacks do suck, right? But the game saves every minute. So even if there was a crash and a rollback, there wouldn't be a whole lot of stuff that's lost. Exploits and stuff like that, I have a lot of things and a lot of code in the game specifically set up to catch those sort of things. We call them honeypots. But if you're asking if there's going to be like automatic bans and stuff like that, no. I get a report that says, so-and-so did something bad, and then I can either teleport to them secretly and watch what they're doing, or based on the report, I can make a decision then. Do you have a favorite food, drink? Oh, we already covered that. Caffeine. And tacos. Are there any bad habits you had to drop so you could have more time in Noia? Yes, I abandoned my family. When it comes to classic monsters, goblins, slimes, and littered people, how are you going to depict them? I mean, that's not a question for me. That's a question for Mao, Netherfang, and Mr. Fox, because I don't do art. Those three have a very good handle on what the theme and the style of the game is, so I trust their judgment. And even within those three, they all have their own little tiny tweaks that they put on their own art. So I could look at pieces from either one, any one of those three, and be like, Mao did that, or Mr. Fox did that one. I should probably do something like that. Have all three of them make something, and then don't tell me. That'd be fun. Have you ever tried Realm of the Mad God? No. I really suck at bullet hell games, and I'm pretty sure that's what Realm of the Mad God is, on top of the part where somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but if you die, it's permanent. And again, I'm bad at video games, and I don't like permadeath. So, meh. Has the Noia YouTube channel helped with some of the financial things? No. No. YouTube pays pennies. Like, I think in the last 3-ish years, I've made like $400 off YouTube entirely. Like, I don't know. You don't make money off YouTube. You make money off YouTube sponsors. Unless you're like getting millions of views on your videos, then maybe you're making something, but not me. No. Has criticism overall... Oh, last question. Has criticism overall been mostly positive or negative when making an MMO? And which do you tend to focus on? I actually haven't gotten a whole lot of criticism. There's you know, the few people that are just like, oh, you shouldn't make an MMO, but then I can now point to the entire YouTube series and be like, sorry, man, kind of already did. There's still a bunch of people that go like, you should turn this into a single player game. Don't make an MMO, it's bad. And those are the comments that drive me further into making the MMO. I am fueled by spite. Most people, like in the early days when I was making my own art, there was a couple that are like, this looks like hot garbage, and they're probably right. But I mean, the game's been looking better and functioning better every 2 weeks, so there's usually only... Most people are actually surprised. They're like, oh my god, you've gotten so much done. I'm like, actually, I didn't. I was slacking off this week. So, no, not a whole lot of negative comments that I need to focus on. And that was it. So, I will see you guys in 2 more weeks. I'll hopefully be back from Japan. Hopefully I don't crash in a fiery death. I'll see you next time. Bye. Where's the off button?